Cheers. Here's to the second month in self-isolation. I'm going to apologise for any noise that might happen in this video because there's so many people coming and going. I don't know why people are coming and going. They're supposed to be self-isolating, right? Anyway, this fixed a diary dates back to the years when I was working at Children's BBC on a Saturday morning kids show. Live and Kicking, I think it was at that time. It changed its name from Fully Booked to Live and Kicking. But each week we had a live 3-hour show, celebs, music, and a whole bunch of fun stuff. This particular week we had the garage band Oxide and Neutrino performing. And if you remember that time, they were the offshoot of the So Solid crew. One black guy and one white guy. Every Friday night before the show, I would take my guests out for some dinner and some drinks so everyone could get to know each other, and it made for a better experience the next day on the show. But Oxide and Neutrino had turned down the invitation for dinner, and it turned out, as I was told later, that Neutrino wanted to go and visit his family. He had family in Scotland where we were filming the show, and he had family in Greenock. And if you know Scotland and Glasgow, you know that Greenock's not the best of places. So the next morning, we were in rehearsals, we were getting ready for the show, and I get a phone call to tell me that Neutrino, whose real name's Mark, had got into something with his cousin the night before, and he was arrested, and he was lingering in the jail somewhere, in some Glasgow jail, in some police station. So I immediately ran upstairs to the gallery because we were about to go live and told my exec producer, Simon. And Simon started to think, well, we need to fill the show with something. And I said, well, wait a minute, I've got an idea. Because my mum, wee Mags, happened to work for the police department. She worked in the HQ, the head department of all the police stations in west of Scotland.
Oh, did she?
So I called my mum and I was like, Mum, you know how you always get me off with all those parking violations? Do you think that you could possibly help me out here? Because we have a guest who's lingering in a Glasgow jail. And my mum said, look, give me half an hour, let me make a few phone calls. So I tell my boss, let's go ahead and put the cartoons in place as a filler, but I might be able to pull something off, a little bit of magic. So sure enough, my mum calls me back and she says, you have to call this chief inspector and grovel and plead your case and hope for the best. Of course, I knew my mum had already put a call into the police, but I did my due diligence and I called the chief inspector and I explained my situation and how this was a kids' TV show and there was going to be lots of fans let down. And he said, well, I'll call you back. Can't promise anything. But an hour later, blue flashing lights came flying down Queen Margaret Drive in Glasgow, and out steps from the police car no other than Neutrino and this really cute female cop.
Yep.
We rush him to the studio and get him on stage just in enough time. In fact, he even had enough time just to douse himself. He sprayed something over his body to make him looking all glistening and, ripped or whatever. Got him on stage, and sure enough, Oxide and Neutrino performed in the nick of time on Children's BBC, and nobody ever even knew the drama behind the scenes that went on. In fact, there's a part 2 of this story that features my friend Damien, who's the record company boss, which I'll tell you about if you keep watching, because I know that people don't have great attention span these days.
What a load of crap that was. Well, it was actually his record boss that got him out of jail. The police pulled him over when we were on our way to do a children's show. And what happened was, the police had racially profiled my cousin. They knew who my cousin was, and cause his other crew, he'd a separate record company. Well, his crew, it did to the other band, So Solid crew, they were banned from touring, and they profiled my cousin and pulled him over and took him in for tests. They said they were holding him until a record company had phoned up. We did limos, SUVs and it wasn't a big limo, it was a small limousine. All my pals and I had the SUV up, and my cousin drove a Porsche up, and they pulled him over, and yeah, had him in jail. So that's a true story. And we were in live and kicking. They did perform then at the time because they found out who he was. So that was a real story. But just to fill you in. But really proud of him. He's well successful, still sells out this day. So good for him. Still in contact with him. He's a good guy.